After 27 games in the 2024-25 season, Ross County were 8th in the Premiership, 2 points off the top 6 and 5 points off of a potential European spot. 14 months later, however, they were defeated 3-2 at Starks Park in a game that saw them relegated to League One, becoming only the 4th team to ever see back-to-back relegations from the top flight to Tier 3. Considering they were many people's favourites to earn promotion at a minimum, something has gone terribly wrong. So, in this video, I'll be covering County's season and work out how it went so wrong. We start off at the end of May 2025, where following a 1-0 draw at Livingston, County would lose 4-2 at home to see them relegated from the Premiership for the first time since 2018. With relegation, however, comes a chance at reset, something that was sorely needed at Ross County, seeing as this was their 3rd relegation playoff campaign in a row, with 2 other 10th place finishes upon their return to the top flight in 2019. The reset, however, wasn't what was expected, as Don Cowie was kept on to try and get them back up at the first attempt, having come in back in February 2024 and keeping them up in a playoff against Raith Rovers that year. The good news for Cowie was that he'd be given what was surely the biggest budget in the league to make the changes required. Ross County may be from the small town of Dingwall, but as explained in the previous video, County are owned by Roy McGregor, the CEO of Global Energy Fabrication, who sponsor the club and whose most recent balance sheets up to 2025 showcase a profit made of £23 million. With this wealth, Roy McGregor has been able to bankroll Ross County through the divisions, but of course being in the Premiership sees a greater return on investment, so getting back in the division is of top priority, especially when you consider the nearly £7 million loss that was made in their most recent season in the Premiership, something that would surely only be greater when in the Championship. With this prerogative then, it was time to do some transfer business. Departing the club were Scott Allardyce, James Brown, Alex Samuel, Josh Nisbet, Charlie Telfer, Ricky Lamy and Eamon Brophy to name a few. Their replacements would have some pedigree, however. 34-year-old centre-back Declan Gallagher would join from Dundee United. Soon-to-be 35-year-old winger Gary Mackay-Steven would join from Kilmarnock. 33-year-old midfielder Ross Doherty would join from Dundee United as well. 34-year-old striker Nicky Clark would join from St Johnstone, and 29-year-old midfielder Jamie Lindsay would join from Bristol Rovers. On paper, these are good signings. Players who have plenty of experience playing at the top level, with many having previously played in the Championship earlier in their career. 24-year-old midfielder Dean Cornelius, meanwhile, would join from Harrogate, having been a bit of a youth prospect at Motherwell, and Aaron Lyle from Morton, who had been one of the Turn's better players in recent years. So, with all these signings made, it was time for the League Cup group stage. They opened up with a penalty loss to League 2 Stranraer. Not ideal, but there's still a point earned and topping the group is still possible. They would get a 1-0 win against League 1 Queen of the South. Again, not inspiring, but it is their second game. And an 8-0 win against Edinburgh City was more to expectation before their real test, Partick Thistle at home. They lost 3-2, thus being knocked out of the competition at the group stage. But it's only the League Cup group stage. It's basically a glorified pre-season tournament. The league fixtures are here and is the main focus for this season. With St Johnstone showing they are potentially going to be a force to be reckoned with, it's important a strong start is made to at least keep up. The opening game saw County bottle a 2-0 lead away against Airdrie. The second game saw a late 1-0 loss at home to St Johnstone, followed by yet another 3-1 defeat at home to Partick Thistle. After 3 games then, County were sitting bottom of the table, and it was decided in a mutual agreement that Don Cowie would leave the club. This was despite the further additions of Alex Iacoviti and James Scott from St Mirren. Following a draw against Dunfermline, a new management team would be announced on the 3rd of September, with former Dundee manager Tony Docherty being hired, with Callum Davidson joining a week later, after a defeat at home to part-time Arbroath. More signings were made to try and improve the situation. Scott Fraser and Trevor Carson both joined from Dundee, with Sean Mackey joining from Falkirk, Ryan Duncan from Aberdeen, and Miller Thompson from Dundee United, while Aaron Lyle went back to Morton on loan. The rest of their September saw a draw away at Ayr, a loss at home to Queen's Park, and a draw against Morton. October, however, would see hope arrive. A first win of the season in a 2-0 home win over Raith Rovers, followed by a draw against St Johnstone. While they would lose to Partick away, they would get their second win of the season after beating Dunfermline at home. So, Would this be the start of a climb towards the playoff spots? November would see a 3-0 defeat at Arbroath, a 3-0 draw against Ayr, a 3-0 loss to Morton, before December would open with a 2-1 loss to Airdrie, and following a 6-0 defeat away at Raith Rovers, Tony Docherty would be sacked, with Callum Davidson following suit. Following a loss to Arbroath and another draw with St Johnstone, a new manager would be appointed, Stuart Kettlewell. Kettlewell started his managerial career in 2018 at Ross County, guiding them to the Championship title and a Challenge Cup win in his first season. His second season saw the club finish 10th, but he would be sacked in December 2020 after a defeat to Hamilton saw them sitting bottom of the league. He would then go to join Motherwell, where he would leave in early 2025 following a poor run of form, before joining Kilmarnock, where he would get sacked the day after Doherty, with Killie second bottom and only 3 points above a Livingston side who were on a historically bad run. With Kettlewell being in on an initial deal until the end of the season, if he wants to rebuild his career, it's imperative he does a good job, keeping County in the league at an absolute minimum. The Kettlewell era Part 2 would start convincingly with a 2-0 win at home to Partick Thistle, but back-to-back cup defeats would be followed by a win against Airdrie, a loss to Morton, and a win away at Queen's Park. January also saw a busy transfer window, with top scorer Ronan Hale leaving for Gillingham, but his replacement would be Uche Ikpeazu, while Gary Mackay-Stephen and Nicky Clark would both leave on free transfers to Partick and Queen of the South respectively. Following defeat to Queen's Park and a draw against Ayr, a win at home to Raith would see County given some hope, with the club now 2 points behind Queen's Park in 8th and just 7 behind Dunfermline in 4th. It seemed that the season could in fact be salvaged. 4 wins and a draw from 7 games is a decent record and could be enough for a late playoff charge. County would not win any of their next 7 games, losing 5, and after a 4-0 loss to Airdrie, Kettlewell was really not happy in his post-match interview.
I'll make it really simple, Peter. For me, it's the worst result in the club's history. It's the worst performance in the club's history. There was talk earlier on in the season of losing the game 6-0 away from home and all the rest of it. But if I can just put this into context, we're fighting a relegation here in the Championship. We're playing against our direct rivals at this minute in time, within that position that we find ourselves in the league. And to perform like that, to apply yourself like that, to be as naive as that, and put everything together, the scoreline, the circumstances, everything about it. And I've just said this to the players as well, so I'm not hiding away from it. Absolutely take my responsibility. I thought the supporters here stayed with us even when it got to 3, even 4. I heard some encouraging shouts for the supporters. So this bit of there'd been negativity from the support. This bit of supporters being at fault for anything. We as a group are 100%, in my opinion, at fault for the worst result in the club's history, and there's no place to hide for that. That's not for today, that's not for over the weekend and you come back in and you start to feel better about yourself on Monday. That has to stick with you for the rest of your days. And you know what, it really does touch a nerve on me. I feel like I've been fortunate enough to be a part of so many big memories and some big results, and beating the odds and playing against the odds as it's been here at this football club for a long time. Now we probably find ourselves as the hunted, the ones that people understand the finance and the resource that go into this group of players and what we have here at the football club, and what it showed today for me was an incredible lack of game nous knowledge, desire to put your body in a line, second balls in, ricocheting about our box, conceding the way we did so early in the game, conceding the way we did by no matching a runner for the fourth goal. For me, it all becomes what the football club's not been built on. It's the polar opposite of what this football club's been built on, and it breaks my heart watching a performance and a result like that, because I know how much the team means to the supporters. I get that they've had to endure that all season, that type of performance and that type of outcome. And then when you look at the people that support from higher up the tree and at the football club, from me, the resource and the love of the football club that they've got in, they're absolutely getting nothing back out from it, as we all see it today. And again, nobody's going to enjoy me saying that, but I find it hard to try and paper over the cracks. I find it hard not to tell the truth, and that's exactly how I see it today.
Following a 1-0 loss to Queen's Park, a scrap that followed was jokingly referred to as the most fight the players had shown all season, with that result all but condemning them to relegation. Their final 3 fixtures, however, would provide some hope. Next up was an Ayr United side that had not long sacked Scott Brown and had nothing to play for, as John Ranking's singular win was enough to keep them in the division. County would manage a 2-1 win, with Greenock Morton being next, who were in a bit of a free fall. Morton had a far superior goal difference going into this game, so even a small defeat for the turn would be enough for them to avoid finishing bottom. That was until Ross County managed to run out 4-0 winners, and with Airdrie winning against Ayr, it set up a 3-way shootout for survival. While County could not finish 8th, survival was very much in their hands. A win could see them climb above Airdrie if they failed to win at Kettlewell, but if Airdrie and or County won by enough, then Morton could drop to bottom, with County 9th and ending up in the playoffs. The games would kick off, and 15 minutes in, Kieran Phillips would open the scoring for County, putting them up to 9th, which is how it would remain until half-time. Early in the second half, however, Airdrie would take the lead, but if more goals were scored in both games, then County could still stay up at Morton's expense. In the space of about 5 minutes, however, Morton would equalise and Reef would score 2 almost identical goals in quick succession to send County back down to the bottom of the table and almost certainly to League One. But then, after the full-time whistle at Capello, County would get a late equaliser. All they needed is one more goal. The end of this match should see County with every man in the Wraith box to try and get a winner to at least temporarily save them. After yet another string of comical errors, Reef would score with the final kick of the season to send Ross County down to League One, seeing the Staggies in the 3rd tier for the first time since 2008. Also, just like the Queen's Park loss, a scrap happened at full time. Again, County players showing more fight than they had all season. So, County have become the first side since Dunfermline in 2012 to face back-to-back relegations from the Premiership to League One. Dunfermline, however, were dealing with administration, so if we don't include them, then it's Partick Thistle back in 2005 as the last team to complete such a feat. So, how have they done this? It all comes down to the recruitment. There's a reason why I listed a bunch of ages for the players, because players like Declan Gallagher and Gary Mackay-Steven were being released from those Premiership clubs for a reason. They simply had no legs, and a lot of them seemingly turned up for one last payday. Going back to the 6-0 defeat at Starks, it was one of the most lethargic and pitiful performances I have ever seen from a club visiting the ground. I have seen junior teams play better than Ross County. It seemed that signing a bunch of past their best Premiership players is not a viable strategy. Even the experienced Championship players were either not given the chance in the case of Aaron Lyle, or were let go in the case of Ricky Lamy. This lack of signing strategy beyond chuck money at everything has been the case for a few years now, with the academy seemingly being abandoned, leading to many fans wanting the departure of club executive Stephen Ferguson. As mentioned at the beginning of the video though, relegation can bring the reset needed. County have been struggling for a while, so maybe this relegation would be the big alarm that tells McGregor that changes are needed structurally. On the 4th of May, it was announced that Stuart Kettlewell was remaining as first team manager. Not ideal, especially when Kettlewell was bottom of the all-time manager list for goals scored in any manager's opening 15 at the club. Ross Laidlaw, Alex Iacovitti, Jordan White, Jay Henderson, Declan Gallagher and Uche Ekpiazu were all away, however, with Donny Forbes of Queen's Park becoming the club's new head of data strategy and recruitment. Hopefully, for County's sake, they will be able to come back up without any troubles, especially with this new data strategy and recruitment idea that they've got going. So maybe they can come straight back up, because having seen the two clubs that have gone from the Premiership to League One in recent years, and those have been Inverness and Hamilton Accies, I'd rather not want to cover them again. That's all for this video, and of course I hope you enjoyed. How will County do next season? Will they come straight back up, or will they flounder in League 1? Let us know in the comments below. Channel memberships are available in the link below. Liking, sharing and subscribing are of course always appreciated, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.